The Denver Post editorial staff made national headlines over the weekend after publishing a scathing series of editorials aimed at its owner, Alden Global. Led by editorial page editor Chuck Plunkett, the various columns called out the hedge fund for its cynical strategy to reduce the quality of the paper, increase subscription rates, all while greatly reducing staff. And on a personal note, I thought it was fantastic. If you hadn't had a chance to see it, it's really fantastic to see what they put together. This picture, I think, really says it all. And I like the fact that not only you see it from the editorial board, but our own friend John Caldera, who doesn't necessarily agree with the Post all the time, is included. Patty, it made national headlines, but do you think it will make a difference in what is happening with the Post?
You hope it will make a difference, because even a paper you don't like is better than no paper at all. Denver is much less rich since the Rocky Mountain News went away, since we were a two-newspaper town less than 10 years ago. We are missing, and now with the Post staff decimated, bad guys are getting away with stuff all the time. There is too much going on in this city for the number of reporters that are out there to cover. And you're not just a watchdog as a newspaper, you're also kind of the beloved family pet, because you're cheerleading great things that are happening in the city too. Think about all the events going on that never get covered because there's no one to cover them. There's no space to put them in. So any newspaper is better than no newspaper, and a robust Post would be great. The problem is Alden Capital has shown absolutely no indication that they have any conscience at all. They are just wringing every penny they can out of the Denver Post. They don't care. So are they going to care that suddenly the entire world realizes how horrible they are? Doesn't seem like it. Randall Smith, the owner, has 17 mansions in Palm Beach. I'm sure he can pay for one or two more by the time he is done taking millions out of the Denver Post. It's depressing. The people who want to save the Denver Post, what they should remember is it's not just a matter of coming up with enough money to buy the paper. It is then supporting that paper or another paper. You have to agree to advertise. You have to agree to subscribe. Democracy is a two-way street. It takes a lot of time and money to do reporting, and you have to support it.
David, what do you think the odds are that we're going to see, I guess, some action, some voices, even though, in a free market, which I would fully endorse, you can't make Alden Global sell, but what can happen in the community that would keep up the heat?
For one thing, this courageous protest by the Post staff has gotten tremendous national coverage and support. It made the front page of the New York Times. The Washington Post has covered it. And some of the other captives of Alden, which owns lots of papers around the country, especially in California, like the San Jose Mercury News, the St. Paul Pioneer Press, they're also starting to act up and protest. It's not so much that the Post has to be bought by somebody, because the Post actually has no capital assets, essentially. Somebody else could alternatively just come in and start a different newspaper, probably hire away a bunch of the people who are still at the Post, a lot of those who have been fired. The Post is not a money-losing proposition. The latest round of cuts is because they didn't meet their target of a 25% profit margin, which is a rather immense profit margin for any business on a consistent basis. Alden Capital is killing the goose that's been laying their golden eggs by degrading the quality of the paper so low. And it's not just of course, the coverage of government and public affairs is very important, but other people, they enjoy the paper for the sports section and the amount of sports coverage you can get. I'm not talking about, and Ohio State versus Michigan, news that you can get someplace else. But coverage of DU and CU sports, things like that, is drastically down compared to 10 or 15 years ago in the Denver Post. And what they're doing already is, as they kill this paper, driving other people to start looking for alternative news sources. So, for example, just yesterday, I took out a 3-year subscription to Colorado Politics, a weekly newspaper that also does daily web updates. And you have to at this point. I didn't want to spend all that money on it, but given how constricted the Post is now, how tiny its news hole is, you have to start looking elsewhere. And of course, I'm also flirting with the Denver Business Journal. I've signed up for their free email, and probably they'll eventually seduce me into paying for a print subscription. And people are increasingly going to have to do that as Alden kills a once great paper.
Penn, let's piggyback on what Dave was talking about other options. Do you think if there isn't a situation here where there can be a community, the proverbial bake sale that raises the money to buy a company that the owner won't sell, is this a cue for maybe somebody like a Phil Anschutz who's behind Colorado Politics, which is actually part of the Gazette? Does that get emboldened by saying, hey, if this is the reaction, there could be more folks? There's already a lot of folks, Joey Bunch being one of them, who used to great reporting at the Denver Post and is now with Colorado Politics. Do you think we'll see more efforts like that?
You know, I think we might. And to both Patty and David's points, clearly Alden is very cynical about this, and they're doing this just to make money. And it's what's equally disturbing is the way they're manipulating the current staff of the Post, because they know these folks want to stay there and do good work, which means they're going to work and do their best to be profitable, which means that Alden is getting rewarded for the very behavior that we're all criticizing and talking about. And that's the more difficult thing. But no, I think we will see other options emerge. I worry about some of these online options because I don't think they hold to the same journalistic standards as the Post and the Rocky in terms of verifying and double verifying and cross verifying. That worries me. And the other thing is, first we have to applaud Chuck Plunkett and the staff for the courageous steps they took. Somebody's going to get fired, not as part of a layoff, but because they did this. I think Alden's just waiting for the dust to settle before they start sweeping some folks out. But there needs to be a community call to action. To Patty's point, democracy is a two-way street. You can't get coverage of the sheriff's department and the police department and the state legislature and everything unless you buy and subscribe and pay for the coverage you want. You have to help keep your watchdogs in place, and we as a community have to do that. And I hope we do step up. And hopefully maybe somebody like Phil Anschutz or someone else in this community is emboldened. But the community's got to be outraged and got to keep beating the drum about this.
Right.
Noelle, you're literally in the belly of the beast here that we're talking about.
Yeah.
What is the situation with you and your fellow coworkers, and what, I guess, is the hope for what could happen next?
Well, there's been like a whole just series, I guess, of emotions. So when the announcement was first made, I described it as someone swinging a baseball bat at my stomach and completely taking my breath away. When we got notice that we were going to have a staff meeting and then we all needed to be there, it's the unwritten code, there's going to be another round of layoffs. We've had these in 2015, 2016. There was one in 2017 that was small. And this email came out about this meeting, and I was like, there's no way they can even get to double digits on this cut. No way. And then Leanne Colasiopo, our executive editor, stood up, and, you know, journalists don't want you to blow smoke, and we want you to tell it like it is. And she's like, I'm going to tell you like it is. It's not good. I need to cut 30. That's a third of our staff. And the room just was like, ugh. And so then you grieve, and then you get angry, and then there's this also, like, journalism and reporting is a calling for most of us. We believe that it's a public service and that it's not just a job. We're not, you know, ringing a cash register or have like a corporate accounting job that we could walk away from tomorrow and go get another one somewhere else if we're not happy. Like, there's one place in Denver, Colorado to do this job, and it's at the Denver Post. And it's extremely important. And we all, like, those of us who are left are still committed to being the best journalists that we could be under the circumstances that we face. And so, you know, I still plan on covering Denver Police, Denver Sheriff, Aurora Police, Colorado Bureau of Investigation, tell you what your law enforcement is doing, tell you what crime trends are going on in your neighborhoods, because that's my job, and I want to continue to do it, and I want to continue to do it in Denver, Colorado, and I hope there's some solution playing out that allows me to do that.